Hello everybody, today we're doing a video for GTA Car Kits in a Porsche 911. This is a 997.2 generation 911, and today we're going to show you how to install our Apple CarPlay and Android Auto kit. As you can see, it's already been installed into this car. It's been paired to our iPhone wirelessly, and you can also pair it to your Android phone wirelessly. You can control it with the knob control, or you can control it by using the touch screen. You will not lose any functionality from your original system. By pressing and holding the info button, you can just switch over like nothing ever happened. And you're also able to add a rear view camera if your car didn't originally come with one. And now we're going to show you how to install it into this particular car. The tools that you're going to need is a T20 Torx. This is a T30 Torx. We have our panel removal tool. This is our hook tool. And then we're also going to use this 5mm Allen key. And of course, you're going to need our product. So we're going to start with our T30 Torx, and we're going to remove this one bolt here behind this carpeted part. It's usually hidden, but you can find it. And we're just going to unscrew it. And then you can just remove this carpeted part. And as you can see, this is the T30 that we removed, and it has these two hooks on the side. We're going to use our T20, and we're going to remove these two bolts. So there's one right here and one above it, right there. As you can see, these are the two bolts, and the one we had on top is way longer than the one on the bottom, so just make note of that when you're putting the car back together. Now we're going to continue on the passenger side, and here first thing you're going to do is lift up this plastic piece and remove it, and inside of there you're going to see there's a T20 Torx, which we need to remove. Please make note that this particular bolt has this fine thread, not like the other bolts that we're going to remove today. Now you can grab this plastic piece and remove it, and behind it you're going to have this connection for your 12-volt socket. So you're going to press on the clip and disconnect it. Behind here, same thing, there are two T20 Torx bolts, so one at the bottom and this is the second one on top. With all the bolts removed, now we can remove the two side pieces on the side of the stereo. So we'll start with the passenger side here. So what you're going to do is you're going to grab it with your hands here at the back and push it forward. So as you can see, it unclipped. Now we're going to use our panel removal tool to grab it here. I'll show you exactly what I'm doing. So I'm going to push it towards myself and it can come out. So what I was doing is I was grabbing it here and pulling towards myself so I can slide it forward. So this is the driver's side, and this one is a little bit easier. So I'm just going to grab it here. As you can see, it just pops out. So it's only being held on these clips at the front. So now we're going to use our 5mm Allen key in order to unlock the 4 locks. So there are 2 on each side. So we're going to start with the driver's side. So we will insert our key here into the lock, and you're just going to turn it counterclockwise. There you go, that's been unlocked. Same with this lock above here. Once you inserted the key, again counterclockwise, and it's been unlocked. So now we're on the passenger side, and at this side you can actually see it a little bit better because you can open up the glove box, and here is our first lock. We're going to turn it counterclockwise also. There you go, and then the one up on top. Make sure that it's turned all the way. Yes. Now you can grab the stereo and you can start sliding it out. And here we're just going to show you what we did with the locks. So as you can see, this is how it was. The lock was locked, and we turned all 4 of them counterclockwise. So they pulled these ones in, and now you're able to take the stereo out. So I'll show you at the bottom too. So we're going to take out the stereo, and we're going to disconnect all the connections at the back of it. So these smaller antennas here, there are clips at the bottom, so you have to press on it, and then we're carefully going to wiggle it out. So as you can see, I'm pressing on the blue one here, then carefully removing it. Now there's this big quad lock harness that has a lock at the bottom. So again, I'm going to flip the stereo over to show you. So over here, I'm squeezing it together and I'm unlocking it. Now disconnect it. And the last one is this antenna here. Again, press on the clip, carefully remove it. So now that the stereo has been disconnected, we're going to show you what we're going to install inside of it. So here we have our stereo, which we removed from the car. These are the tools that we're going to need: is a flathead screwdriver, T8 Torx, this panel tool we showed you before, and our kit. So you're going to have your ribbon cables. This is our main circuit board that gets installed into the stereo. These are the antenna and the posts on which the circuit board sits. You have your main quad lock harness, USB cable, which we're going to install inside the car. It's used for wired CarPlay, wired Android Auto, and for updates. Have an optional microphone. If your car didn't come originally with Bluetooth, you would use this microphone. And these two cables also get installed inside the stereo, and these two ends will come out. So this is the top of our stereo, as you can see. So we're going to flip it over, and there are two T8 Torx bolts here, which we're going to remove. So now we need to remove this CD changer part and separate it from the body of the stereo. So you need to lift it up, but it's kind of hard to lift it up. So we're going to use our flathead screwdriver here on the side, slightly pry it open. This is one side. There you go. As you can see, these are the locks here on top, and there are also locks right there at the back. And now the stereo can be separated, and our circuit board gets installed into here. So over here at the back, we also have to remove this blocking plate, because this is where our wires will come out. And if your radio is equipped with Sirius XM, you would have an antenna here, but you would do the same thing. You would unbolt it and just keep it loose in order to have space to bring out the extra wire. So here inside the stereo, the first thing we're going to do is disconnect these two ribbon cables. There's the big one and there's the small one underneath. They lead up to the screen. And in order to do that, we're just going to use our panel removal tool to lift up the clips carefully. Don't break these clips. This is the second one. Now we will use our T8 Torx, and we will remove 3 bolts here. So this is the first one. This is the second one right here. And the third one right there. So we are removing these bolts in order to replace them with our posts. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So with our kit, you're going to receive these 6 posts. So you're going to see that they're different lengths. You're going to see that you have 3 short ones and 3 long ones. So as you can see, this stereo doesn't have XM module, so we're just going to use these long ones. But if you would have XM, you would put them together and make them extra long by connecting the small onto the big. But because we don't have XM, these short ones we're just not going to use. So we're going to use these 3 long ones, and we will install them in the same spots where we just removed our bolts. So there's one right here, second one right there. So what you can do is you can use your T8 Torx, make sure that the post is straight, and tighten them. And the third one goes right there. Now we need to route these 3 things into the stereo, so these 2 wires and the antenna. And here we already removed that blocking piece, so that's what we're going to use in order to bring these wires in. Now the antenna. Next we will install our ribbon cables onto the original circuit board of the stereo. So make sure that the orientation of them is correct with this metal. So in order to put them in, the lock has to be unlocked, and then you slide them in. Make sure that the connection is fully straight and all the way in, and then you lock it in place. Same with the smaller one. So if it's on an angle or not all the way in, when you're going to power on the stereo, it will not display correctly. So now we're going to grab our main circuit board, and we're going to start making all the connections into it. So we'll first connect the original wires onto these 2 connections. So again, the clip has to be unlocked, then you slide it in, make sure it's straight, and then you lock it in place. There you go. Now the bigger one. Next, we will do these two. So we're first gonna do the smaller one. Bigger one. Now we will connect the antenna. And now these two extra wires. Make sure that they face the right way, so this end with the wires showing has to be on the outer edge. So like this. Same with this one. And now you're going to carefully maneuver the circuit board around. And we have to line it up with the posts that we installed earlier. So these two wires you can route. And this is how it's supposed to sit. Now we're just going to install the 3 bolts that hold this whole thing in place. So these are the original bolts here. And we showed you how to install those gold posts. Now we're just securing the circuit board using them. And the last one is hiding right there. So with everything installed, now we will rearrange these wires a little bit. So we'll pull them out so they're tucked nicely here in the spot and not in the way of anything. And at this point we can start putting the stereo back together. So here at the back we will line up the stereo with the original locks and carefully close it all up. So when you're closing the stereo, you got to make sure that these locks on top here going back into their spots. And as you can see, the bolt holes line up. So everything's been done correctly, and now we can. So everything has been assembled. The 3 extra parts are these 2 cables and the antenna. So the antenna we suggest to wrap it up neatly here at the back. Make sure that it's not at the way of the edges of the stereos. And we're gonna use a piece of tape just to hold it down. And the stereo now is ready to be tested inside the car. So we're gonna show you what other parts you end up with. So this is the main quad lock harness. So this end of this quad lock harness needs to be plugged in to this wire. And this USB cable, once we run it into the car, will get plugged into the other end of this cable. So now we're going to go inside the car and test everything. So now we will install this USB cable, and we think a good spot would be for it to come out somewhere around here. And with everything already removed, it's quite easy to get the wire behind the stereo. And here we will just leave it hanging. When we're putting everything back, we will tuck it nicely. Next, this is the original quad lock harness. As you can see here, this car has the optional fiber optic cable with upgraded sound system. So we need to transfer it over onto our harness, otherwise you're not going to have any sound. So we will lift up this clip here, and once you lift it up, you can pull the cable out. So we will grab our harness, which we showed you earlier. So we'll plug it in here. So make sure that the lock is unlocked almost all the way in, and then you lock it in place. And this is the end that will go into the head unit. So we have to put the fiber optic cable into here on the outer edge, and just plugs in like the original. And at this point, we're gonna also connect the USB here. And we showed you earlier how to connect this cable going into the harness. And now we will grab the stereo. We will connect the main quad lock harness. Make sure that the lock is unlocked. Make sure you insert it straight all the way in, and then you lock it in place. And now we'll just test everything before reinstalling back the antennas. We'll make sure that the radio turns on and the display is working properly. So we turned on the ignition. So the main thing that the stereo has to light up, so everything has to be visible and the touchscreen has to be working, and it is. So if something is not working, then it means one of the ribbon cables inside the stereo is not inserted correctly. You have to redo it. And in order to test CarPlay, we connected it first by the wire to our iPhone just for testing, and we put the original system into auxiliary, and here out of the sources it is an auxiliary. So if you don't have auxiliary showing up, then you have to actually insert the CD and then enable the auxiliary option. So in this car, it's showing up, so everything is fine. And now with the phone connected, we're just going to press and hold the info button. As you can see, this is Apple CarPlay. So it's working. We're going to just check that it's displaying properly. We will check the music. So the sound is working, so everything is good. And at this point, we can turn the car off and assemble everything back. So with the test successful, we will start connecting everything back. So we connected most of the stuff back except the antennas. So you should have the black and the blue one here and the gold one over there. So we'll start with the gold one here. It has to be upside down here. Oh, all of them are actually upside down. And now carefully you have to make sure that all the wires are inside, and you're going to maneuver the quad lock, this harness, a little bit towards the passenger side. There's more space there. And we're going to start putting everything back. Also check underneath the stereo that there are no wires sticking out, like this one for example. Take your time when you're putting everything back. You should be able to slide the stereo all the way in. And if not, you have to recheck what is in the way. So we move some cables at the back, and now the stereo can go all the way in, and we will lock the locks. So we will use again our Allen key, and we will turn the locks clockwise in order to lock them in place. And this is driver's side, again clockwise. We're locking the locks. So all 4 locks have been locked, and now the radio is back into its original place. And now we're continuing with putting everything back. So we'll put in these side pieces. The one on the driver's side is easier. Now we'll do the passenger side. So the bolts have to line up. So here, driver's side. So we'll first do the lower bolt. This is the T20. This is the top bolt, which was longer like we mentioned before. Then this carpeted part. So first you need to insert these 2 clips and then line up the bolt. This is a T30 bolt. Now we're at the passenger side. First we'll do the lower bolt. Now the top bolt. Now we can grab this plastic piece with the 12-volt socket and reconnect it back. Flip it around. As you can see, this USB we'll keep right there. And this is the fine thread bolt which we talked about earlier. And this is the last piece. So now the installation has been completed. We also went to the settings of our module and paired our iPhone wirelessly. You can also pair your Android phone wirelessly. As you can see now, you can enjoy CarPlay in your 997 911. Again, this was a video for GTA Car Kits. I hope you liked it, and we'll see you next time.